When Shaquille O'Neal turned onto Hawthorne Avenue in Newark, New Jersey, on a Saturday morning in October, the street looked smaller than he remembered. Not worse, just compressed, the way memory inflates the places that shaped you, and reality quietly corrects the record. The oak tree at the corner was still there, bigger now, its roots pushing up through the sidewalk in 3 places. The bodega on the end with the hand-painted sign was still there, the chain-link fences, the row houses pressed shoulder to shoulder like people on a crowded bus, each one holding its shape through sheer stubbornness. He was in a rental, a plain white Chevy Tahoe, chosen specifically to be nothing special, and he parked it half a block from the house he grew up in and sat there for a moment with the engine off. Gray sweatshirt, no hood, dark jeans, white sneakers with a crease down the left toe from being packed in a bag. No jewelry, no security. A folded piece of paper in his jacket pocket, creased in thirds, that he had been carrying for 11 days. He got out. He walked slowly. He did not look at his house right away. He looked at the house across the street first. White aluminum siding, one shutter hanging slightly off its hinge on the second window from the left. A pickup truck in the driveway, primer gray on the passenger door where a panel had been replaced but never painted. And near the gate to the backyard, a child's bicycle leaned against the fence, red, training wheels, one handlebar grip missing. It had not been ridden recently, the tires were soft, but someone had placed it carefully, propped rather than dropped. Someone who still expected a child to come back for it. He noticed the mailbox. The name had been re-stenciled recently. The letters were sharper than the aluminum behind them. The name was Kowalczyk. He had known it would be. He filed everything away. He turned toward his own house and kept walking. Now here is the part that not one person on Hawthorne Avenue that Saturday morning understood. Not the woman 2 doors down, watering mums on her stoop. Not the teenager in the driveway across the way who glanced up when the Tahoe parked and looked back at his phone. There was something Shaquille O'Neal had known for 7 years. A specific fact about a man on this street. A fact that came to him through a single phone call from a woman he had never met. On a number he almost did not answer. On a Thursday afternoon, in a Phoenix hotel room with the television on and his shoes still tied. What Raymond Kowalczyk had absolutely no idea about was one single thing. And Shaq had been carrying it in that folded piece of paper for 11 days without telling a soul. You are not going to see this ending coming. Stay with us for the whole video, because what happened on Hawthorne Avenue that morning will make you rethink everything you believe about what it means to go back. Shaquille Rashawn O'Neal grew up at 657 Hawthorne Avenue in a row house with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and a back stoop where his mother Lucille sat on summer evenings after dinner and watched the alley like a program she had seen before and still enjoyed. She was 5'2", 130 pounds, and had inside her something closer to permanence than strength. The way a tree is not strong exactly, but simply will not move. She told Shaq when he was 6, standing in the kitchen in his socks, "This family does not quit. We do not quit things. You remember that." He remembered it the way you remember things said before you fully understand them and spend the rest of your life catching up to. His biological father was not part of the story of that house. The man who was part of the story was Philip Arthur Harrison, Sergeant Philip Arthur Harrison, U.S. Army. Precise, demanding, and present in the way that some men are present, fully, accountably, without reservation. He had one rule. He said it so many times it stopped being advice and became architecture, became the structure of the way Shaq moved through the world. Don't be a reaction, be a response. He said it the first time Shaq came home with a bloody lip and fury in his eyes. He said it when Shaq was 15 and 6'5", and the anger that came with being that large in a world not built for you was looking for somewhere to go. He said it in the driveway the morning Shaq left for LSU, arms crossed, not hugging yet, and then hugging him hard and saying it one more time against his ear. Philip Harrison died in 2013. The rule did not die with him. Those 9 words are why Shaquille O'Neal was on Hawthorne Avenue that morning. Not the championships, not the $400 million, not the name on the arena. 9 words from a man who is gone, and a folded piece of paper in his jacket pocket. But first, the boy. Shaq was 8 years old the summer it started, already 4'10", already wearing shoes that had to be special ordered, already the child that rooms rearranged themselves around, not because he demanded it, but because the space insisted. He was not a loud child, not an aggressive child. By every account of those who knew him then, a gentle child in an oversized body trying to figure out the terms of that arrangement. Raymond Kowalczyk was 14. He lived directly across the street, wiry, fast, with a mouth that moved faster than his thinking, and a need, common to a certain kind of boy at a certain kind of age, to locate the thing that was different and make sure it knew it. Shaq was that thing. The summer of Shaq's 8th year became a particular kind of education. Freak, monster, thrown from across the street, always just loud enough to be heard, never quite loud enough to bring out the adults. A water balloon from behind a fence, laughter disappearing around a corner, small cruelties, which are sometimes the worst kind because they are too small to confront directly and too consistent to ignore. Philip Harrison sat on the back stoop with Shaq one evening in July. He did not ask what was wrong. He waited. When Shaq finally told him, Philip was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You know what that boy is afraid of? Everything you are. He sees what you're going to be, and it scares him because he doesn't know yet what he's going to be." A pause. Don't be a reaction to that fear. Be a response to it. Shaq did not fully understand it, but he stopped throwing rocks at Raymond's fence, which had been his plan before that conversation. 4 championships, 15 All-Stars, $400 million. Shaquille O'Neal became one of the most recognizable humans on Earth. Raymond Kowalczyk stayed on Hawthorne Avenue. Raymond was 50 years old now. He had stayed in Newark, not because he had no ambition once, but because ambition is easier to maintain when the ground underneath you is stable. And Raymond's ground had shifted several times in ways he had not chosen. He worked the docks for 11 years until the back injury in 2009 took him off the floor for 4 months and returned him to a seniority list that had moved on without him. He worked a warehouse after that. He had a daughter, Brianna, 9 years old, her mother's eyes and his stubbornness, who had been, for the last 14 months, the axis around which his entire life organized itself, because 14 months ago, a pediatric cardiologist at Newark Beth Israel had used the phrase congenital heart defect in a sentence with her name, and Raymond's world had quietly rearranged itself around that fact the way a river rearranges around a stone. He was not a bad man. What he had been at 14 was frightened and small in ways that had nothing to do with his body, a house where his father's moods were the weather, and the safest move was to find something smaller and make yourself feel larger by comparison. He had not thought about the summer of 1980 in years. He had thought about it exactly once, when Brianna was born, in the way that becoming responsible for someone gentle makes you reckon with the times you were not. The night before that Saturday, he had gone to bed with Brianna's medical bills spread across the kitchen table. Not because looking at them helped, but because a certain kind of tired makes you want to see the whole problem even when you cannot solve it. He had applied to 3 assistance programs, waitlisted on 2, denied on 1. His brother in Pittsburgh had sent what he could. He had picked up weekend shifts at the warehouse. none of it was going to reach the number the hospital needed in 6 weeks. He was checking the oil on the truck Saturday morning when he heard footsteps on the sidewalk and looked up. The woman watering mums 2 doors down was named Dottie Reyes, 71 years old, on Hawthorne Avenue since 1978. She had known Lucille O'Neill. She had watched Shaq grow up, the way you watch a tree growing faster than trees are supposed to, with delighted alarm. She had her reading glasses pushed up on her head and the watering can in her hand when she looked up and recognized the man in the gray sweatshirt walking slowly down the sidewalk. She did not call out. She had learned, in 71 years, that some moments are not for calling out. 3 houses from the Kowalczyk place, a 19-year-old named Deshaun Morris was eating a breakfast sandwich on a stoop. He had grown up on this block. He ran a YouTube channel, 400 subscribers, neighborhood videos, just the block, just life. And he had his phone out, camera on, pointed at nothing in particular, the way you do right before something happens. He recognized Shaq before Dottie did. His hand tightened on the phone. He did not press record. He watched. Raymond Kowalczyk looked up from the engine and saw a man on the sidewalk in front of his house. He registered the size first, then the face. He went very still. The oil dipstick was in his hand. He straightened up slowly, the way people do when they are buying themselves time to decide what their face is going to do. Something moved behind his eyes that was not quite shame and not quite fear, but lived uncomfortably close to both. Shaq stopped at the edge of the driveway. He did not come through the gate. He let the silence do the work that words would have done badly. Raymond said, "Shaq." Flat. Not a greeting. A fact he was still deciding the meaning of. Shaq said, "Ray." Raymond's jaw moved. Several sentences began and abandoned themselves behind his eyes. He said, "It's been a long time." Shaq said, 42 years. Raymond looked at the ground, looked up. "I was a kid," he said. "A stupid kid." Shaq said, "I know what you were." A pause that held more than either of them said. Then Shaq reached into his jacket pocket and took out the folded paper. He held it without opening it. "Before I give you this, my stepfather had a rule. He told it to me the summer you and I were on this street, after I came home wanting to put a rock through your window." The corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile. "Don't be a reaction, be a response. I've been carrying that my whole life, and I've been carrying this for 11 days. He held out the paper. 7 years earlier, Shaquille O'Neal had received a phone call in a Phoenix hotel room. The caller was a social worker named Carol Simmons, assigned to the Kowalczyk family after Brianna's diagnosis. She had tracked down his number through 3 layers of assistance, because she was the kind of woman who did not stop at 2. In 4 minutes she told him everything: the name, the street, the diagnosis, the deadline. He sat with the phone in his hand for a long time after she hung up. He flew home. He sat with it, prayed over it, told nobody, because there are things you have to hold alone long enough to understand what they are asking of you. What this was asking was not simple. It was not the kind of charity that feels like generosity. It was the kind that feels like completing something. 11 days ago, he had set up a directed fund through the foundation. Full coverage of Brianna's cardiac surgery and follow-up care. No ceiling. The document in the folded paper was 1 page. A letter of authorization and an account number. Everything Raymond needed to call the hospital Monday morning and say, "It is taken care of." Raymond opened the paper. He read it once. He read it again. His hand was not steady the second time. He looked up. His face had let go of everything it had been holding. He said, "Why?" Not a question. A stone dropped into still water. Shaq said, "Because your daughter didn't do anything to me. because a reaction would have felt good for 10 minutes and a response lasts longer than I will. And because I know what it's like to need somebody to step across the street. Raymond stood in his driveway and said nothing for a long time. Dottie Reyes had put down her watering can. Deshaun Morris had not pressed record. He would think about that choice for years, and he would decide it had been the right one. Some things belong to the people in them. Brianna had her surgery 6 weeks later at Newark Beth Israel. 9 years old, her father's stubbornness, her mother's eyes, and, her surgeon noted afterward, an unusually calm disposition for a child going into a procedure. Raymond sat in the waiting room 4 hours and 40 minutes. Carol Simmons sat with him for the first 2. Shaq called at 6 p.m. from Los Angeles. Raymond answered on the second ring. "How is she?" "She's good. She's out. She's asking for a cheeseburger." Shaq laughed. "A real one." Raymond said, "I've been trying to figure out how to say this for 6 weeks. I don't have the words. I just want you to know. I know what I was, and I know what you didn't have to do, and I know the difference between those two things." Shaq said, "Ray," a pause, "take care of your daughter." He hung up. The red bicycle with the missing grip was still leaning against the fence when Shaq walked back to the Tahoe that Saturday morning. He stopped in front of it. Soft tires, training wheels, carefully propped. Someone who expected a child to come back for it. He thought about a boy on this street in the summer of 1980, 4'10", gentle, learning the terms of an arrangement nobody had asked him to agree to. He thought about a man on a back stoop in July, waiting without asking, and 9 words that became weather. He walked back to the car. He sat for a moment looking at the row houses in the October light, the oak tree with its roots lifting the sidewalk, the bodega on the corner. Smaller than he remembered, and bigger in every way that mattered. At the corner, Dottie Reyes was back at her mum's. He raised one hand from the wheel. She nodded. Slow, the way people nod when they have seen something they expected and are glad it turned out to be true. He turned the corner. He drove away. Brianna went back to school in January. 3rd grade, same teacher, same desk by the window she had asked to keep. Raymond finished the weekend warehouse shifts in March. Not because the pressure was gone, but because the weight underneath the pressure had shifted enough that practical problems felt like practical problems again, which is all they ever should have been. Carol Simmons was recognized by her agency in April for the Kowalczyk case, not for the outcome, which she correctly noted she did not produce, but for the phone call she made on a Thursday afternoon to a number she had to go through 3 layers of assistance to find. Deshaun Morris posted a video that spring, not about that Saturday, but about Hawthorne Avenue, about what it looked like in October light, about growing up somewhere the world did not notice, and knowing anyway that things happened here that mattered. 11,000 views. His channel grew. He kept going. And on the back of a get well card Brianna made for her surgeon, crayon, construction paper, uneven letters, she drew a basketball and wrote, unprompted, "My dad says a big man helped us. I want to help somebody too when I get big." That card is still on the surgeon's wall. Don't be a reaction, be a response. Shaquille O'Neal learned that on a back stoop in Newark from a man who said it until it became weather. He carried it into every room he entered for the rest of his life. And on a Saturday morning in October, on a street that looked smaller than he remembered, he let it walk him across 42 years and hand a piece of paper to the person who least expected to receive it. He never asked for credit. He never did. And neither should you. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. This story deserves to be seen everywhere. If it moved you even 1%, hit the like button, because that is how more people find it. Subscribe and join this community, because we tell stories here about what people do when nobody is watching. The next video is ready for you right now. We will see you there.